Liz was half out of her seat yesterday when Heather asked for a demo volunteer, and so Heather said, you could be the next one. So we're going to demo Liz. So Lord God, we don't know what your plans are, your purposes for Liz, but we know you have them. And so we are bringing her before you, all of us together. We all lift her up and intercede on behalf of her heart. We bring her before your throne of grace and confidence. And we invite you here in this moment to do the thing that you would most like to do for her. When you look over her heart and her future, her past, whatever your top priority is, we invite you. We bring our own hearts, our souls, our spirits, our bodies before you. And we present ourselves. We lay out everything that's in us. With us. We wrap that around. Because of it, we repent of all the different ways that sin and fallenness operate in us. We know that there are many ways that your mercy needs to be new every morning over us like it is. So all those ways, all the ways that fall and fallenness and sin operate, we gather those up in us and all the warfare that's attached to it. We suspend all of that operation now. We sift it up out of what's us and we set it into your courts in the heavens. We ask that all of that would be sealed, kept for us. Holy Spirit, would you search through us, please, like we can, and find our stubborn places. Especially, please, the ones we're not aware of. Would you find all the places in the will that even raise an eyebrow against what you hope for, what you want in us. Would you find those places and work them soft. Pummel them if necessary. Arrange, please, all that's inside of us until we just lay flat out before your surgery in our hearts. If there's anything about the work we're about to do that would be a trigger for me, if there's any blind spot I would have or particular resistance, I ask that you put your hand on my own stuff, all my brokenness, that you keep it aside, keep it at bay, that I could have your grace over me to be without limit on Liz's behalf. Would you allow me to touch into your objectivity, that I could see her like you see her? Put your hand, please, on my thoughts. Move them like water, that I can line up with what you're thinking. I know she has heart's desires, we all do, so whatever her heart's desires are, whatever the things that she's cried out, that she's brought before your throne, that she has asked for, we all agree together in your name with her for those requests, and we lift them up before you. We ask that you would search through every little thing that makes her up, every moment she's ever known, that you would choose the place that you want to go today. Mark those steps out for us, please, so we'll follow you. Thank you again for this particular way to do that, to follow you. Be glorified in all that's done. If there's any way that either one of us are low on resources, if we don't have anything, the measure of faith or courage or wisdom, or if there's a skill we don't have, wherever we're low, would you fill us in, please? Equip us, make us able, way past natural, please. Able to partner to do things that can't be accounted for by Splana. Come and do miraculous things, Lord. Give you invitation. Be glorified in every little thing that goes on here. May the kingdom be advanced in Liz and in me and in the whole room for these next few minutes. In your name, Lord Jesus. So, in human nature, whenever we experience things repetitively, like when we sing a worship song we've sang 500 times, right? It's natural to us when something becomes very familiar. It's natural for it to just sort of fall out of the mouth without us really connecting at all to the ideas. You know, it's we're aware of them most, I think, in worship. But there are songs we can sing and be thinking about the Broncos the whole time. You know, you may not think about the Broncos, but you know something. Well, there is an internal. There is a matter of spiritual discipline, and there's a matter of integrity when it comes to opening prayer here in Splana. I have probably prayed the basic same opening prayer 7,000 times-ish in the last 20 years. And when you pray the same prayer over and over and over, it becomes very difficult to connect to each idea again this time, right? Because it's much more easy, it's much more relaxed to just let the ideas fall out of my mouth in a real rote way that I don't really think about or connect to anymore. But it really matters that you take that discipline seriously. Because any time that a prayer is falling out of your mouth that you're not connected to, that you're not really sending that intention, you're not really involved in those ideas, that's a useless prayer. That's empty words, you know? So every time that I come to a moment with another person and we sit down to engage in Splachna, when I begin that opening prayer, it is work on the inside to make myself connect again fresh to each of those ideas, to mean what I'm praying. You wouldn't hear it from Heather or any of us, you would never hear the opening prayer sound exactly the same. And that's very intentional. So I encourage you in that same way. Don't ever let your opening prayer get real familiar, so that your language and the order in which you say it, or the picture language you use and stuff, don't ever let it become super, super familiar and rote. Okay? All right. So we trust together that the Lord has marked out our steps. So first thing we do is, right. So is there any resistance that we need to deal with? No? Could I see if there was? Yeah. See a little, could I see? It's a good little trick. Okay. Now what? I have no resistance. Set or algorithm. So first are we given a set, an algorithm. Now what? Which algorithm? Now I didn't mention, it's written on your page, but I didn't mention. Your single liner algorithms, so the one phobia, depression, grief, your single liner ones, you'll never need to do them more than 5 times. So if the muscle test says we need to do grief reduction algorithms 7 times, that's just the person saying, I hope we never get to the set. Right? You're not going to need to do the 1-liners more than 5 times. You're not going to need to do the 3-liners more than 3 times. Can you imagine doing OCD algorithms 7 times? It would take you an hour and a half. You know, it's so long. So you won't need to do the 3-liners more than 3 times. So I need to know now, which algorithm am I doing? Grief rejection, phobia, depression, pain, depression. Am I going to do depression, pain algorithm 1 time? More than 1? So I get just 1 time depression, pain. Couldn't be simpler, algorithm-wise, okay? Now the last thing I need to know before I can do it is what direction of the eyes. Now, if my client is one that can't do the eye movement, needs to do the feet, then obviously we're foregoing our options of vertical and diagonal and all that, because the feet would only be horizontal. But that's okay, because the right-left horizontal is 1 increment most effective than the others. Same way with the eye movement, by the way. Don't forego the eye movement altogether and just have everybody do feet, because while the feet are useful, the eyes are an increment more useful. So they are the better best issue. So as long as the client can do the eyes, you want to stick with the eyes. All right, so we're going to do depression, pain 1 time. We need vertical, right diagonal, left diagonal. So left diagonal once, so she's going to come to triple armor. Good. And you're going to think about depression and pain throughout your life in a real global way, and just notice anything that seems to come up. Okay. So now that that's done, my question is there more we were given? It highly likely is, right? Chances that God's going to give you a depression and pain algorithm and nothing else, super, super slim. Good. So do we have more algorithm work? Do we have more algorithm work? We have set. When you muscle test for a while, you can tell the difference between an actual muscle test and when she thought it should go weak. It's an interesting thing. I could tell that wasn't a real test. Something in her logic said more. Yeah, you know you did it. Yeah, yeah, I know. But you get to where you can tell the difference. You're like, yeah, that wasn't a real arm. You faked that one. Okay, so we have a set. So my first question as a set is, are we looking at conception of birth? Birth to self, birth to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15? 10 years old, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14. So 13, 14 years old, where were you? What was going on? What was the thing right around there?
When I was 12, we moved from one house to another. There was a house that she didn't have one. Would that be close enough to any time?
No? She said at 12 we moved, but we're looking at 13, 14. Let's see, 14 is ninth grade typically, right? So 8th, 9th grade. How was the beginning of high school or any of that?
15.
You got nothing? Okay, that happens. Sometimes clients got nothing. That's okay. If the age was different, could I see it? Okay, so I double checked the age. Okay, age, it says, yeah, you can see it, so we're going to stick with 13, 14 for the moment. So I want to know my central emotion. Central emotion in red, green, top of green, anger, irrationality, frustration. At right liver, left liver, both livers, forehead, back, left temple. So double liver, left temple, frustration. So she'll get both. I'll get her left temple for her. Think about, I'm sorry.
The other one.
Think about frustration. And I know that's a real vanilla one. It doesn't give us much. So think about frustration in your life right now and then. Great. Is frustration clear? No, you need to forgive somebody. You forgive me, yourself, God, someone else involved. So anything come to mind when you were thinking frustration?
Possibly we did have this gigantic swimming pool, and that we couldn't afford this house at all. It was way more than these. And the giant swimming pool was kind of big, and we had to clean it out, and that was the nastiest job ever. I remember doing a lot of physical labor in that house. It was a huge yard, that's huge acres of gathering apples that fell. The kitchen was like huge, and I felt like I cleaned the kitchen for a year. It felt like I just did a lot of physical labor at that.
Oh, okay, that's what came to mind. So she said what came to mind when she was thinking about frustration at that age is that the house that they had moved into at that age was way, way bigger than they needed. It was out of their means financially, and it was way too much land and too much space for them to care for. And for instance, had a huge, huge pool that they had to clean out, and it was super disgusting, and they had to do it all the time. She feels like she was doing manual labor all the time at that house. Either keeping the grounds, picking up all the fallen rotten apples, or trying to clean this massive, huge kitchen. So she felt like just tons of manual labor and frustration. That's what came to mind. Now, I don't know if we're working on that sort of thing or not. We sort of watch the emotions as they go. So, yeah.
It just occurred to me my parents were also fighting a lot.
And the parents were fighting a lot. Okay. So we needed to forgive somebody else. So is that one of the parents? You forgive both the parents? Both the parents. So we'll go with the fighting thing. So pinky finger here. I forgive my parents for all the fighting in that season. Did they stay together? They did not. When did they divorce? So another 2 years later. Okay. 2 years later, the parents divorced. Okay. So you want us to move this way? Way in the way? There we go. So the emotion clear? Emotion clear. So central emotion, frustration, age 13, 14. We know about the parents arguing starting around then, later divorce. We know about a whole lot of manual labor. Our central emotion being frustration is a little vanilla, right? That can go a lot of different ways. So we don't have a real super clear idea yet of what we're doing. Now that central emotion is cleared, we want to go on to find out what next. How many more are there? Okay. One of the common mistakes that people make in level 1 is that they go right from central emotion to the vow or the lie. And sometimes you can do that accidentally because it might take you a while to get central emotion and age and to get it cleared and to get the forgiveness done. And if it takes you 20 minutes, you feel like you should be ready for vow and lie. But there's always that big box in the middle. How many more emotions are there? Okay. So do we have 5 or more emotions? 4? 3? 3 more emotions. Okay. So those 3 more. The first one in red, green, blue, top of blue, fear, dread, bad memory, right kidney, both kidneys, forehead, back, left temple. So right kidney, sorry. Why can't I do my switching right now? And left temple. Think about there being a bad memory. So what that means is there is an event, there's a memory, a moment in time that stands out in her soul unresolved. She might have a memory, she might not. She just needs to think about there being one and notice what comes to mind. 13, 14, yeah. Would you bring up whatever you want to work on that? Okay, what all comes to mind?
Being in the house. It was just, we never should have moved there. We moved there because my dad wanted to live there. He wanted to stop living with rich people, so we moved into this house that was rich, but we had no business being there. We should have stayed in the old house and we were at that's what we've been doing. And then the divorce made us there.
So he was going for image at everybody's expense.
He was going for image, yeah. Yeah, condos, unfortunately, so he was like to go back.
Wow. Okay, so she says that really what was going on under the surface of buying this house was that Dad was going for image because he was in a field of stockbrokers and high rollers, and he was trying to look like a high roller too. So they would have all of these external things like Porsches and big houses and everything, but they couldn't buy their food and they couldn't pay their electric bill. So Dad really had a thing going off balance here with his image bounds. Yeah, so at everybody's expense of even electricity, you had to have this image. He had to have it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, and he would gamble. Okay. He would play poker to get the mortgage money, she says. So, okay. So we don't know what the bad memory is. And I'm going to see, she went and touched the points. We'll see if bad memory clear. No, you need to forgive. You need to forgive yourself, Dad, Mom, God, me, somebody else. Can we see who you need to forgive? Okay. So he's like, don't, I don't want to play anymore. Leave me alone. Okay. This is a very regular part of the process. Happens all the time. So before I go into the big spiel of resistance, I'm just going to do the simple admit first. Okay? My subconscious admits who I need to forgive about the bad memory. Can we see who you need to forgive? See, so that was easy enough. So that's faster than going up into yellow and saying, do you need a collarbone statement or a resistant emotion? Right, so we're only going to go work that hard in yellow if my little admit won't get it done. That's why admits is the top on your list in collarbones. So do we need to forgive Dad, Mom, someone else? Dad will do. So how would you word that? I forgive Dad for... Okay, good. Confusion. Is that clear? No. More on Dad? Mom? Yourself? You need to forgive yourself for something with this bad memory, 13, 14. So we have no idea what, so I'm going to go real global right here. You have any idea what you might need to forgive yourself for? Okay, go to index. I forgive myself for this bad memory and whatever part I might have played. Is that clear? No? More on you, me. You forgive me for asking you to go to this bad memory, to resolve it, to clear out a vow or a lie. Little finger. My subconscious forgives Sarah. Now, here I'll say my subconscious forgives Sarah rather than I forgive, because she does not feel angry with me. She's paying me, right? It's her subconscious that's mad at me. So I'll have her say my subconscious forgives Sarah. My subconscious forgives Sarah for asking me to release this lie or vow. All right. So we're forgiving me, and we were on bad memory still. Do we have more on bad memory, Nika? That's okay. Okay. Emotion number 2, 3 in red, green, blue, white, copper white, grief. Right lung, left lung, top button testing, forehead, back, abdominal. So, grief.
Good thing I'm here.
I know, right? Thank you for helping me out. Okay. This is, I don't know what that's about. That's very strange. This is grief. So think about feeling grief in this circumstance. Oh. Who knows? If I had had her type that in, just so you know, if you added a demarcation someplace where you didn't need it, or if you forgave somebody who you didn't really need to forgive, so what? That's right. It's all okay. Not gonna hurt anything. If you were doing one of the algorithms that doesn't need the demarcation, but you added it anyway, it's okay. Not hurting anything, just working a little bit too hard. Okay. For some reason, my right and left right here in this demo is not clear. So you forgive you, Dad. Think about the money stuff specifically. Are you on the right track with that? Think about the house and the manual labor. Are you on the right track with that? Okay, so the money deal with Dad tests better. I'm wanting to start narrowing that. We only have one more emotion, and we still aren't really sure what we're looking at, right? So that's why I asked. So let's at least see if we're more on the camp of Dad and the money and the gambling and the image, or are we more on all the manual labor and I hated that house, okay? Because that's where she started, was with all the manual labor thing. So the Dad and the money test better. So since we're on grief and we need to forgive Dad, let's go again to that. I forgive Dad for his choices with money in that season. Dad, would you bring clarity about what it is you're wanting to address, what you're working on here? Did you get grief? Good. So you said we didn't have electricity at times. And since bad memory tests, meaning there's an actual event we're looking at, not just a general theme in a season, was there a time you remember when the power was out, or when you didn't have food, or something?
I remember just like our teacher was just like eggshells, like will there be, like we all shared a toothbrush, but Dad didn't know what he thought it was his, stuff like that, and like secrets. There was like everything looked good. Behind the scenes, nothing was good. Like we said, it was dinner table, and I think to myself, this is such a lie. What is it? Such it's much than the marriage is not unified as much. My sister got so mean about just there were just secrets and things weren't okay, but the image was everything's fine, look beautiful, I'm going through the cold, look beautiful, like it was like that. And I don't know what that.
She says our whole lives were like on eggshells because nothing was stable and everything looked stable. And for instance, we all shared the same toothbrush and Dad didn't know it. He thought it was his. Like he didn't know there wasn't money for everyone to have a toothbrush, kind of thing. And told himself what he wanted to tell himself. Yeah. And she would sit at the dinner table thinking, this whole thing is a lie. It's a big sham.
Yeah. Like he would, I guess I'm mad because it's like, how could he not notice that?
Yeah.
And ironically, he lives with us today.
Really?
He did last year because he's, kind of, he's sharp as a tack and fine, but his finances are, so I feel like we've rescued him out of the way he's about us today, but I guess it brings up today, like, how do you not see, you still don't see things, but you
Yeah.
just choose to not notice that.
Yeah, he does this denial thing, yeah.
But he's really nice.
She said a year ago he came to live with her. Dad, he lives with her now, which is ironic. And because of financial straits, he lives with her now. Yeah. But we don't have a memory, and we don't know exactly, I mean, the grief, we know things generally, but not exactly. You hearing anything I'm missing back there? This is one of those moments where the demo's so hard. It's so hard to, just so you know, to try and be in work mode and teach mode at the same time. It's super hard to have both streams going. So sometimes up here it ends up a lot more confusing than if she and I were alone in a room. Yeah?
Well, what I was kind of hearing is sitting at the dinner table is just this, I'm being a part of this deception that's going on.
Yes, she said lies were everywhere.
Yeah, you're making me be a part of this deception. I'm sitting here, I'm fully aware of that right here and right now.
But it could just be an event like a moment like that, a moment of clarity. Yeah, and it could, yeah, right. Mhm.
I keep hearing pool coming up.
The pool,
coming up.
mhm.
Is there a bad memory with
Is there a bad memory with
the pool?
the pool?
It was freezing cold, and I will never own one, because I don't want to ever clean one. Ever again.
Sounds like there were a lot of bad memories of cleaning the pool.
It's a metaphor. The pool looks great, but it's
Represents.
cold.
Mhm.
It's cold. It's not.
Mhm. And it's such a sharp representation of the image problem going on.
Oh, and it's
Yeah.
the only pool around for, like, we had a pool. But it was
Nobody
this
else has a
big-
pool.
And we were all like, yeah, whatever, you want it? I mean, we didn't want it. It was not the great thing that you would think that we would think it was. It wasn't.
I hear that facade, that emptiness, that
Yeah.
everything, and that sense of just there not being enough.
Yeah. The reason I'm hanging out and asking for input is because when bad memory tests, it means that there is a moment, there's something happened. So not just a general, it was crummy in this season, but something went down. And at that age, she would likely remember it. I don't get repression anywhere, right? So I'm hoping that she clues into, oh, I remember when the such and such, and we'll be like, that's the moment, you know?
And you don't want to suggest.
I would suggest category things, right? If I felt like I heard something from a spirit, I'd say, I think I might have heard blah, blah, blah. Does that resonate with you? You were gonna say something else?
I was just gonna say that sometimes I think we think about like a bad memory and it being very specific and really that we would notice that it was traumatic, but maybe it was a memory that created that lie or began that that didn't have to. It's definitely an event, but like.
I'm just saying, in the Spartan protocol,
Right.
for her heart to pick out of the emotions bad memory is saying there was an event that went down.
Yeah. But
Right.
It doesn't have to be like the car accident, right? Though it could be like that.
No, it doesn't have to be what we would call capital T trauma in regular life, yes. But it would be a significant, usually a significant memory.
Did her dad buy a Porsche in that, one of those years?
Did he buy the Porsche in one of those years?
He bought Porsches and Audis and condos and Steamboat and Dale.
Goodness.
I remember.
While your electricity was going out.
Yeah, Mom did that too.
With-
Could have been any of those moments of
There
sales.
was one moment where the lights are out and he comes driving up in the Porsche and their
Yeah.
lights are out and they're starving and haven't eaten in a week. And he comes driving up. That could have had a significant impact
Yeah.
on their life at that time.
We used to.
Oh, she got it.
We used to
Did you see her face?
You reminded me.
She got it, thank you.
We used to dinner at the country club because we didn't have food, which how stupid is that? But I remember driving one time. He was a very fast driver. It was terrifying to be in a car with him. And we were going to one of our condos one day, and he decided to pass a car on a curb. And we missed being hit by a semi by like inches. It was terrible.
Mm.
That was probably our age.
Yeah. And see, she's all choked up. So we probably got it. We have bad memory with grief, and our central was frustration. Frustration with this, how he is. Okay, so think about not being taken care of, right? Not being considered in any way. Yeah.
And they got married because they didn't want to get married. And right out.
Mhm. Okay, so even though that comes up really strong, she remembers, it resonates, I'm still gonna check it with a muscle test. So I'm gonna say, so tune into that memory, that side swipe with the truck. We on the right track? Yeah. So I knew there was a memory because bad memory tested. See, if bad memory hadn't tested, I would have been fine with just the general gist of that season and the vows and lies that came out that season. But bad memory tells me that there's one she's got one. Unless it comes up repressed memory, okay, she's got it and it matters. Or her heart wouldn't have identified it in one of three emotions, right? You with me? That's the thought process of why I pushed for that and hung out on it. And was like, well, Lord, make it available. Yeah, and he did. So our last emotion then, did grief clear right away? No, let's go back to grief. Let's forgive Dad on the way you just said. I forgive my father for so little regard for us.
Yeah. Give down for so little regard to us, our safety and everything.
Yeah.
Like forgive God for so little regard to us.
Did you see how she turned that sentence? She said, I forgive Dad for having so little regard for our safety in every area. Okay, so So that moment with the car was like this representation of the whole way he was, how he doesn't care if we have food or shoes or a toothbrush, but he's got to have this Audi, whatever. Okay. And Porsche, and condos and everything else. And grief clear? Okay. One more emotion. Red, green, blue, top blue, fear, dread, bad memory, focused on. Right kidney, left kidney, forehead, tongue. So, I don't think it's written in your thing. Focused on, remember how your little fine print under focused on by who? When focused on tests as a trauma emotion, it also can mean just its opposite. It can mean ignored, which in this case is likely what her heart is saying with focused on. Her heart is saying, so not focused on. Like, wasn't caring what I needed, what my experience was, if I was fed or clothed or afraid or hit by a semi. Not focused on is what our heart is saying. Ignored, ignored, ignored. Yeah, they didn't have socks, she says. Matching socks. You could find socks, but they weren't matching. So go focused on, we had right kidney, left kidney, forehead, back, left temple. Left kidney, left temple. About feeling ignored, disregarded. Good. Now, remember how earlier, when we had bad memory, we didn't know what it was yet. She had to forgive herself. Remember that? But we didn't know what for, so we went kind of global. I forgive myself for whatever my part. Well, now that we have a gist of the bad memory, I have a prompt. I would like to have her go back and forgive herself now for being so insignificant to her father. You know, now that we have a gist of what we're working on. So I'm not going to go. No, forgiving yourself that you didn't matter more to him. Like, it's not your fault you didn't matter more. It was his brokenness, not yours. You know? I forgive myself for not mattering more to my own father. No. Good job. Deep breath. So she really feels that one, okay? So she said, can I think it and not say it? No. There's something powerful in speech. Speech is constitutive, it's creative, okay? That's part of being made in the image of God, is that when we speak, we create, like he does. And so when the client says, can I just think it? No. Okay, you can do this, you can speak it. So in that supportive, you got this, but we're gonna say it, okay? Don't let them back off, because if they back off, if you don't make them say it, you're cheating them out of a greater, deeper resolve, okay? All right, okay? Emotion clear, good. So now we're ready to see the power of the lie. So in this circumstance, what are some reasonable lies she might have come up with? I'm nothing. You know, don't tell him yet. Let her practice. She says she knows what it is. I'm nothing. I don't matter. What else?
I'm not important.
Not protected.
It'll always be this way.
Yeah. My needs aren't important. I'm insignificant. What sort of vows might she have made?
I will never be important.
That's a lie.
That's
It's a
why.
lie.
I will never pretend.
Nice.
That's about it. I'll never pretend, she said.
She said, I'll never pretend, yeah, as an example.
I'll never let somebody do that to me again.
Uh-huh. I'll self-protect at all costs, yeah.
My kids will never go without.
Nice.
I'll never be like my father.
Won't be like my father. Any of those, right? So here in this collaborative moment, I would ask her, so what do you, first I want to know vow or lie. So are we looking for a lie or a vow? Do you know? What? So if it was really a lie, could I see it? She said, I know what it is, it's a lie. Well, it tested as a vow, and when she said it, she was so inside of it, I knew it's on. And so then I went and said, so if it really was a lie, could I see it? And I go, no, you can't see it. So just regular resistance, okay, at this moment. So I'd have her do a collarbone that says, I'm okay getting the lie accurate and being done with it today. to say that collarbone statement because it made sense in the moment, okay? The list on your chart is just to serve you. You're not bound to that list, okay? So if you're in a moment where a particular collarbone statement just is logical, go with it. You aren't bound to that list in the little yellow box. That's just for when you have no idea what your collarbone statement should be, go check into your yellow box. Okay. What? Oh. She said, how can God love me if he gave me a dad like that? So the lie is, God must not love me because he gave me a dad like that. Yeah, same gist, yeah. Okay, so that lie, tune into that lie. Is that what we're on? Oh, that's what we're on, okay. Can you break it? All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Lord God, I confess that whole pattern with my father was so painful. Being continually disregarded. And that day where he almost let us get killed, I swallowed a lie. I believed all the way that day that you must not love me because you gave me a father like this. And that lie has been working underneath my heart all my life. I repent today of believing. I repent of equating you with my father. And letting the enemy get such a deep foothold. I repent of all the different ways that this lie has played out in my life. How it's changed how I treat myself. And how I'm required to be treated by others. I just heard that part. So the Spirit said that part. So, and she said, oh, that was right. Well, I just wanted her to know that wasn't my brilliant idea. That was the Spirit said that. Yeah. I repent of how, especially the distance that it created between you and me. I ask for your great mercy over it today. And I ask to be freed from it at its root. So that I can know your love for me for the first time. Anything more we need to address and confess for time? Yes. You, between you and God relationally? You and your relationship? So, how do you see this impacting your relationships? Oh. You think it makes you needy, demanding? Not demanding. Oh, okay. So it makes you needy, like sorry for yourself?
Yeah.
Or you're sort of Eeyore?
Holding everything captive.
Say that again.
Holding everything captive. Like, figure this out for me.
This being this issue, or this being anything in life?
Making other people be irresponsible. Because I feel like I didn't really how to be responsible for myself. So I was always been too bad enough.
Oh,
So,
okay.
does that make sense?
Mhm. So I repent of how this has impacted my ability to care for myself.
39 seconds is impacted my ability to care for myself.
How it's made me more dependent on others.
Too dependent.
Yeah. I ask for your mercy over that as well. Sure. Then more and confess repent. We can break this. Okay. So from my spirit that is alive in Jesus, on behalf of all my being, I gather up that lie and destroy it. I revoke all agreement with the lie that you don't love me, God, because you gave me that father. I pull out that lie everywhere it was lodged in me. I push it down to crumbs. And I throw it out to the abyss. I gather up all the warfare attached to it. So right here when I go to pray that, the Spirit says, and all the accusations throughout our life. So, so just listening and bringing in whatever, so if you get prompted with a particular idea, join it in. So the Spirit says to add, so not just the lie and its entities, but all the time since the lie got in, that the enemy has whispered to her, see, you're nothing, see, no one loves you, see, God doesn't love you. So every time that accusation has been whispered in, all those times, we're going to gather all those up too. Which isn't something that's necessarily I'm always going to think of in the prayer, but I heard that, so I'm going to join it in. Okay. My point being that you're not bound to the steps in the prayer either. They're to serve you, not you to serve them. Okay. So I take authority over all those accusations throughout my life. Every time the enemy has used this lie against me, I pull all those out at one time like layers. And I throw them to the abyss too. I set all the entities involved into your courts. And I ask that you would sentence them now on my dispose of them. And Lord Jesus, I need you to come write the truth in me now about the love of the Father for me. So just a second ago or so, the Spirit said to separate, to peel apart her Father from God. Okay, so it's a very common thing that all of us, we mesh our Father and God. So when we try and think of or see God, the Father's face is in the way, the literal Father, the earthly Father. And so by the authority of Jesus, I remove my earthly Father's face from the face of God. I separate them entirely in my heart. And I ask you, Father God, to reintroduce yourself to me. Free of that lens. To show me who you really are for me. Who you always have been. We ask, Lord Jesus, that where that lie was, you would reign now permanently, that your kingdom would come and reign. We ask that you would speak over her the love of the Father 7 times more than the enemy ever spoke the other lie. Thank you for where you directed us here today. In your name, Lord Jesus. Questions or observations? Oh, sorry, I didn't even ask that.
Oh, you're not done yet.
Come here.
These might be some other.
Is there more that we were given? We did what we were given. Okay, so we didn't need to ask. Yep. Okay. Thoughts and questions, observations? Anything?
Oh, switched arms.
Yeah, switch arms a lot. You're going to naturally want to use your dominant arm. And if you stay with your dominant arm, you won't hurt the process any, but you will really make your back mad and your client's back. It's really a bummer for your ergonomics. When I was 30, so 14 years ago, I went to, for my 30th birthday, my girlfriends and I went to 10,000 Waves in San Fe. And I went to get a massage. And the girl comes over and lays her hands on my back, and without even moving, just touching my back, she said, "What do you do with your right arm?" Yeah. And I'm like, I muscle test people all day. You have to stop that. Like, that was when I forced myself to get accustomed to my non-dominant arm. So you need to make yourself go ahead and use your non-dominant arm and get familiar, get comfortable, or your back will not like you in a little while. And you're a client too. The client's back, and they'll be much more tired if you stick with one muscle. And so you need to go back and forth as much as you can. Any other observations, questions? Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's separate. The notes are on the side of that page. Is that
Yes, I pulled all of those out of your book.
It's on page 43.
43.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We appreciate your vulnerability then. So I'll hope that it's clear that it was because bad memory tested that I pushed so hard for an actual event. Okay? I wouldn't have done that if I had had 3 emotions that were just more general. But bad memory tells me that God is going for a memory that matters to her, that was significant. you know? Now, if I got repressed memory, then I would not have pushed for a memory. Because that's telling me whatever the moment is inaccessible. She's not gonna come up with it. And if she thinks she came up with it, oh, I think I know what it is, it by definition isn't that. Because whatever it is repressed, right? Mhm.
We got bad memory yesterday from conception to birth.
Mm.
Obviously, not gonna remember anything.
Obviously not. And in that case, I wouldn't have pushed for a conscious memory, but I would have, I still would have assumed that something went down in a moment in time, rather than we were working on a generic global, it was like that the whole time in the womb, right? So no, she's not going to remember what went down, but something did if bad memory is what tests. There would be a significant moment in time when there was a shift of some sort that mattered, even though she's not going to consciously remember it. Other thoughts? Yes?
Forgiving the practitioner is usually about the lie or the vow or what other?
Anything in the process. So she might need to forgive me for asking her to forgive somebody else. Or she might need to forgive me for asking her to even deal at all with this memory, or to feel these emotions, or to make a particular change. Anything in there.
Or to even put her up front.
Or to even put her up front. Yeah. I did, of course, ask for permission. But yes, for anything. Mhm. And like I said, forgiving the practitioner is a very good sign. You want to be messing with the apple cart, right? So if you have super comfortable subconsciouses all around, you aren't causing much change.
Is there any purpose in figuring out if it's a birth, a conception to birth thing, whether it happened in first, second, or third trimester? Is any of that valuable?
Yeah, it can be, particularly if there's a lot of story, like if a person knows that, like when I was pregnant with my first, we were in a car accident. And so it might matter, like if you knew about your conception, well, in third trimester there was a car accident, so it might matter. But generally when you get conception to birth, you aren't going to bother with that specificity unless you need to for some reason. But we're going to talk a little bit later about womb stuff. We aren't really quite there yet. You're a little bit ahead of me. Okay. We just have a couple minutes here before a lunch break. On page 43 in your manual, there's a written out example session start to finish. I don't know if it's in here or not.
That's it.
Yep, 43.
That's it. We were on there. It's the green.
It's the green to the right of the.
Oh.
No.
Go on that.
Yeah, it's taking over itself. It's just doing it. Honestly, I don't know what it's doing.
Well, that's because I've got this.
Oh.
And you've got that. What are you doing there, Crystal? Okay.
Right there to the right.
That's funny. I didn't know that you were moving it over there. That was funny. Okay. Well, regardless of the screen, page 43, this is an example, just in a different visual style, of going step by step, beginning to end of session, for those of you for whom that kind of learning style is helpful. And then before we go to lunch, page 44, there are a couple little tricky emotions. We call them hidden resistance. These little tricky ones here on page 44. So commonly, you'll be going along, you'll be humming through a set, and you're on maybe emotion number 5 out of 6. And one of these will pop up. These are examples of these. I really don't think any other ones get used. So these are the ones where when the subconscious is not wanting to go forward and it really is in resistance but doesn't quite want to admit it, it'll pop up and say the next emotion in the set is denial, when really that's a right now emotion about how the subconscious doesn't want to keep going. Or it'll pop up dread, and really it's a right now dread about, oh my goodness, we're about to get to the lie, I'm freaking out. Or stubborn, saying, I don't want you to keep going, I want to stop the process here. So when any one of these 6 tests, anywhere in the set, you want to have a little flag in your head that says, let's double check that one. Let's make sure that really is the next emotion in the trauma set and not an immediate right now emotion. Because these are the common ones that can really be a little sneaky ones. So, your example, do you want to share your example?
Yeah. I popped up with denial the first and the last. It was the first emotion and the last emotion.
Which, by the way, I have not mentioned to the room. The same emotion will not test twice in the same set.
Okay.
So if you have 6 emotions, you're not going to have number 2 is anger and number 7 is anger. Okay? An emotion will only show up one time in a set. And every now and then, in a blue moon, there can be a caveat to that, but that's only if the emotion shows up twice and the second time is a totally different meaning. So angry one time, maybe it's my anger, and then next time it's mom's anger. Like that could be okay. But other than that, other than it meaning a totally different thing, generally you're not going to get the same emotion twice in one set. So the fact that you had denial central and then you had it later was already a flag.
Yeah, denial was not the central, it was the first.
It was the first, and okay,
Yeah,
the
and then
first
it was
of
the
the
last
supporting
one.
emotions.
Right.
Okay.
So, but it tested in different places in the body as well.
No, that's not enough.
Okay.
Yeah, just so you know.
Okay. But after we went past it, and I'm just going to use the way we saw it.
Yeah.
We then got to repressed after
No,
denial.
okay. Well, the way I remember you saying it, you originally were told you had 8 more supporting emotions. And when you got done with the 8th one, which was denial,
Yeah.
you then got 2 other extras that popped up.
Yes.
And I said, no, it doesn't go that way.
Right.
If it tests that 2 other extras are popping up in the last minute, it's just the soul trying to avoid getting to devour the lie.
Okay.
So you aren't going to have extras pop up at the last minute.
Okay.
Now the fact that his number 8 was denial, I said, so probably what was really going on was number 8, denial wasn't really the 8th emotion. It was really one of these tricky ones popping up saying, I don't want to finish, I don't want to get to devour the lie, don't mess with me.
Okay.
Don't make me do this, okay? So denial, had he been through this page and denial tested as number 8, he would have had a little flag and said, let's double check denial, let's make sure that's not really a right now emotion. And so the way he would do that, it would look like, he'd say, so this denial. If it was really right now and not actually in the set, could I see that? And you might get, nope, you can't see it. If he says, yes, you can see it, well then I'm going to trust that it really is accurate. So he would have had that flag, and what would have happened was, if you had asked about denial, is this really a right now emotion? You would have got, yeah, it's really right now.
Okay.
And then you would have gone and had the plan to denial as an immediate resistant emotion.
Okay.
And then you would have found out what number 8 really was.
Okay.
And once you did number 8 really, you wouldn't have anybody trying to say there's extras, there's extras.
Okay.
Okay. Make sense?
Yes.
So when whatever number you were given, if you got that there's 4 more, when those 4 are done, don't ever ask, are there any more? You don't need to open that door. That's just you giving the subconscious an opportunity to say, you mean I can wait longer to get to the devour the lie? Okay, so don't give that opportunity. Whatever the number was, when you're done with that number, you're done. It's devour lie time, subconscious like it or not. Okay? Mm-hmm.
But the hidden resistance was still clear, right?
You still clear the hidden resistance was as current resistant emotions. And then you go back and find what the next trauma emotion really was.
But you can also have a focused on in the set, though, because
Sure.
that ties back into, as long as there's a connection where it ties back into the plan.
Sure. So any of these emotions can really be the next one in the set.
Okay, gotcha.
They just also can be tricky and be right now.
So do you always check them?
These I do, yes. Mhm. Uh-huh.
So, I got rehearsed the enemy, dread, and denial
All in the same set, okay.
So, I think you might have answered what you said,
Those could be the emotions in the set in the trauma.
but so I guess my question would be, do we ask, like, all 3 of those, do I ask it now or was it?
Yeah. Mhm.
For
So
each one of these?
Mhm.
Okay.
So the moment that one of those tested, you were going to extra check it. Could that be right now by any chance? Or is that really in the set? You were just going to double check it. Okay? All right. Mhm. You already know about page 45, about closing up session. When you're out of time and you still have work, you aren't done with the set. Obviously, you wouldn't close up in the middle of an algorithm. You know, an algorithm only takes another couple seconds, so you would finish an algorithm. But if you're in the middle of a set and your time is up, you would seal it up in prayer, and God is highly likely to pick you up where you left off. One more thing about closing up session. It's always a really good idea, bottom of here, page 45, always a really good idea when your session is over to just gather any potential for retaliation, shut it down, seal it under the feet of Jesus. So the enemy, some people have different measures of demonic right in their lives, and if you go and heal some things, they can get some backlash from some of that demonic influence. And we don't want Splachna to ever open up for backlash. So as a just matter of course, handling your house, we always do at the end of every session,